Welcome everybody to Bill Tessar's Industry Insights, and thanks for tuning in to today's episode, The State of Today's Real Estate Market. So from inventory and inflation, rates and concessions, who better to dig into all the things real estate than two of the nation's top real estate professionals? So I think naturally, when our focus in the real estate community, no matter what role you play, when we focus on specific regions, it's easy to stay siloed, to maybe only know what's happening in your particular area of focus. That being said, no matter where you're at right now, or no matter where you're investing in, our goal with this dialogue is to get some insight into the nuances that are happening across the board, across the country in today's real estate market. So as always, we know how valuable your time is, and no matter what role you play, today is going to be an hour well spent. So it's my pleasure to now introduce today's panelists and special guests, Denise Madden and Mark Toller. So Denise Madden is a realtor and broker associate with Keller Williams Realty. And working alongside her business partner, Joel Freese, the duo is based in Miami, Florida. Denise has over 20 years of experience. She holds several industry designations and awards. And Denise truly believes that selling a house takes so much more than just putting a sign on the lawn. Just a few of her specialties include negotiating CFK, deed in lieu, and short sales. So she is a powerhouse, and she really lives out her goal, which is to have every single one of her clients become a raving fan, which is an amazing book, by the way. So
yes.
Welcome, Denise.
Thanks, Tina. It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Next up is Mark Toller. Mark is a realtor with Rodeo Realty in Woodland Hills, California, San Fernando Valley, Southern California area, and practicing for 32 years now. Mark's main focus is within the San Fernando Valley, also serving Conejo Valley, West LA communities, and the majority of Mark's business is geared towards working as a seller's agent. About 75-25, he's seller buyer. And he also assists many people with selling properties through the probate process. Further, Mark also sells smaller commercial properties. So in that aspect, serving a large range of price points, a recent $3,500 a month lease to closing on a $6-8 million home last week. So his average,
we take them all.
Take them all. Absolutely. I think Denise will attest to that too. And the average being about 1.5 to 2 million. So we are very excited to hear your thoughts today, Mark. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And taking the mic with our guests is today's host, President and CEO of CIVIC Financial Services, Bill Tessar. Bill, as you know, has over 35 years in the mortgage industry, and he is our visionary lending leader. He joined CIVIC in 2017 as CEO and has really led CIVIC to achieve milestones time and time again. I think we were talking yesterday, and we're calling it, he's coining it Milestone May. So, you know, I'm excited for more to come very soon. And he is our Glassdoor top CEO, HousingWire Vanguard Award recipient, 2021 American Association of Private Lenders Member of the Year, and just an all-around leading voice that we can all attest to in the lending industry. So without any further ado, we're going to kick things off with the man of the hour, Bill Tessar.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you. I always ask Gina after these industry insights, she would just come over to my house one evening and introduce me when I walk in the front door. So my wife would be like, oh my God, like you're not just my husband, like you have an award or a housing thing or Glassdoor thing. Because right now I need you to take out the trash because it's coming in about an hour. That's the warm reception I get. So welcome everyone. Thank you, Denise, and thank you, Mark, for joining us. This is probably, so I speak in conferences across the United States. I speak on podcasts and interviews. And I think the hottest topic right now is what the hell is going on in the real estate market. And I think for the first time in my career, I don't ever remember being pushed as much as I'm being pushed right now to take this draconian position, to take this position that we're entering into this housing bubble. It's ready to collapse. It can't go much higher. And I just to kind of spoiler alert, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that we have hit a cap in the real estate market. And I think we're going to get to talk about the reasons why I'm not buying it. I don't think Mark and Denise are buying it either. And yeah, we have some coverage from California to Florida. I'll also bring some perspective. Our former parent company is the largest fix and flip company in the nation. They purchase, fix up and flip 500 to 600 homes a month. I have regular meetings with Greg Geiser. And so I have perspective on the rest of the real estate market. And then we do 8,000 loans, fix and flips and long-term rentals each year with investors throughout the nation. And so I'm going to bring that perspective as well. But I think like if we're going to jump right into it, let's talk about inventory levels, because to me, that is the baseline to everything we're going to talk about today. It is the overwhelming driver. And I thought maybe Mark, if you don't mind, I'll start with you. I'll jump over to Denise after. What you're seeing in SoCal in terms of inventory levels, both from listings and sales.
Yeah, as I'm reading across the country, I mean, here a dramatic drop in our inventory. We are right now at pretty much under 1 month's supply, meaning if everything's sold out, we'd be 3-4 weeks, we'd have nothing on the market. A healthy market in our area is 5 to 6 months, which we haven't had for a while, but it's such a shortage, and obviously it's driving up the prices. So there's a lot of, you have your horde of 10 or 15 buyers going to one listing, they don't get that, so they jump to the next one. So it's that swarm going from listing to listing.
You're saying 1 month. Just explain in kindergarten terms to everyone exactly.
Meaning literally, if there were no properties listed anymore, we'd be sold out of available inventory within a month's time. That's how much, as far as the amount of activity to what we have, our the listing supply would be sold out in 3 to 4 weeks completely. And what's in a standard healthier market, it's let's say 4 to 6 months worth of inventory. We have under 1,000. Like I just looked up the stats in the San Fernando Valley. There's like under 700 houses for sale. When I first got into real estate in 1990, we had, I think, about 13 to 14,000. It was a completely different market. And in a healthy type of a market, we're talking 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 homes on at all times. We're under 1,000 houses. And they're being listed. It's just they're going so fast. It's not, there's nothing sitting on the market. Although we are starting to, we're starting to see a slight change. We'll see. This is within the last couple of weeks with some new inventory that I've put out. I've noticed a little less activity. And I don't quite know if it's the shock of the interest rate jump over the last 3 months. People are stepping back, taking a breath, and then maybe they'll absorb that. And just like gas prices are high, they freak out that they're high, then they get used to it, and then they're paying $6.50. In LA, it's almost $7 a gallon for gas. I know the rest of the country, I hear $4 or $5, but here it's crazy. So we've got all that going on. I
saw on CNBC this morning, they're going, the national average is $4.50. I was like,
I wish.
I haven't seen $4.50 in California.
I know.
In years.
I wish. That's for a half a gallon, maybe.
Right, exactly. That's how we measure it here. What about you, Denise? What are you guys seeing in terms of inventory levels in Florida?
Well, I thought Mark was reading my notes. I mean, it's because I was doing the exact same thing, looking at the stats. Joel and I cover 2 counties primarily, Miami-Dade County, Broward. We do some of Palm Beach only because when we were heavy into foreclosures, REOs, we would travel. Oh my God, we would travel from Monroe County up to Palm Beach County for our client. But right now we have 1.7 months of inventory in Miami-Dade, and in Broward we have 1.1 months. Our, year 4 to 6, where we say our balance is about 6 or 7 months of inventory, and we have a stable economy, but we're the same way. It's inventory is low. And
what are the days on market? So you're talking about a month at Mark. 1.1 month in Florida. What is a normal day on market for a listing in Florida? Denise, I'll come to you in a second, Mark.
Sure.
You know, our operating broker, she manages 5 offices. So every quarter she does a big report, big stat. So FYI, if anybody does want a copy of that report, I'll send it to you, Gina. You can send it, or people can, email me. I'm happy to share. So the median is 57 days compared to 97 days a year ago. In all honesty, from the properties that I am seeing, and like Mark, my partner and I, Joel and I, are primarily listing agents. We do work with buyers, but we try to give those to our buyers agents if we can. So with that, I say we're definitely under 30 days on the market with our days on market. What we try to do, and I'm sure maybe Mark does this, and I'm sure a lot of you on the call right now, you get your listing, you promote it for a few days, 5 days, a week, you say coming soon, you do an open house on the weekend, done.
Done, yeah.
So that's what we're doing here. Mark, are you the same?
Yeah, I would say for us, we're probably under 20 days on the market, 15-ish, couple of weeks type of thing. For example, I'm working with a buyer now, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're having 4 2-hour windows of showings spread out over a week and a half period, and then all offers are due Sunday at 5 o'clock type of a thing. So that's what we're seeing a lot of. But as I had stated initially, I am, our last, we just put out 2 new listings, today's Wednesday, in the last 4 days. And we're seeing less calls. And I'm going to see how that rides over the next couple of weeks, see where this is all going. But we're just seeing that frenzy starting to tail a little bit. We have some really hot areas that are still that craziness, but it's been interesting the last couple of weeks. So we'll, do another call in a month and see where it goes from there. But that's kind of what's happening. But yes, on a great house, priced correctly, under 2 weeks on the market for sure.
One of the things I invest heavily in is research. I use Zellman, I use Adam, Fred, the Fred Report, Stratmore, and I came across a chart that kind of freaked me out. It sits on my desk here, and I don't know if you can see this. Just nod if you can actually see what that looks like.
Yes.
Okay, so This is a really, really simple chart. And right up here shows the average number of listings nationwide year over year, which averages about 1,000,004. 1,000,004 listings throughout the United States. Right now, at the end of last month, we were at 356,000.
Jeez.
356,000 nationwide. So start thinking about that. Like I know there's an awful lot of talk about rates, and listen, I've spent my entire adult life in lending. I know how this game works a little bit. It's actually playing out exactly how we called it, with rates rising and look, the 30-year fixed right now. I know I got some mortgage experts on this call, but I think we're somewhere in the low to mid 5s, right? We were in the high 2s, low 3s. And so people believe that the rates are going to blow out the real estate market because you're not going to have as many people qualifying. And I think here's the reality. Here's my reality. Let's start with that. It might have an impact on first-time home buyers.
Yes.
So entry level, it might. You still have dual incomes going into these qualifying. You also have people that are now working out of their home, so they're commuting less. They have less expenses going back and forth, whether it's gas, insurance, car, maintenance, because they're working out of their home, which means they can afford a little bit higher interest rate. And so you got a lot of competing dynamics that are going on with interest rates. And then probably the most important thing, and the lenders on this call will nod their heads up and down, you're going to see products coming into the marketplace. You're going to see the 2-1 buy downs come back. You're going to see the graduated payment mortgages come back. Interest only will be super hot. Qualifying at start rates. You're going to see all these new products to get the people that no longer qualify at 5.5%, 6%, 30-year fix into housing. So I think it's going to be more of a nothing burger that we've seen 150 or 200 basis point increase in rates. Where it impacts the market is people might be less likely to do a cash out refi because they don't want to pay that rate.
Right.
I
that
think
makes
we
sense.
see some impact there, but I actually don't really believe that the rising rates are going to impact the real estate market quite the way we think they are. And so like you look at this chart right here, this chart probably to me, more than anything else I see in the marketplace tells me real estate values are not going anywhere but up. It is like economics 101. It is supply and demand. We do not have enough houses to fulfill people who want to own homes. We just don't.
Right.
Mark, I don't know if we did a industry insights about, help me, Gina, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, where we had the president, Eddie Wilson from Think Realty. He said their estimations were we were 5 to 6 million homes underwater in terms of supply and demand, meaning people that want housing, that can afford housing, and housing that's available, and thought that that was a 7 to 8 year time horizon before we would even hit some equilibrium. So like I had this big conversation today, and I want your opinion about this, Mark and Denise. Our CFO of our company came in this morning in our one-on-one, and he goes, "Hey, is this feeling like a housing bubble?" I was like, no, it's not feeling like a housing bubble. Like, just so everyone's clear, if you didn't live through the credit crisis of 2008, that wasn't really a housing bubble. It was a credit crisis. We were lending to people we shouldn't have lent to.
Yes.
We were doing 100% loans to $2 million with 580 credit score, stated income, stated asset, and crossing our fingers and hope that they pay.
Right.
It was really baloney what was going on. But there was a moment in time that you look down at your desk and you go, how is that person qualifying for a home? So, right, Denise? And then values changed a little bit. And then people go, whoa, my house isn't worth what it was when I bought it. Here's the keys back, or I'm going to stay in the house for 2 years without making payments. And that's really what created the credit crisis. The quality of credit today, best it's ever been. So start with you, Denise. Are you guys seeing it be to the point of toppy? Are you guys talking potential bubble or credit crisis in Florida?
No, it's not a bubble. And you know this better than anyone. Just like we were referring to 2008, people were getting loans that didn't have jobs. No, it was just crazy. It was absolute crazy. And those of us that were out there on the street and we're selling homes, we're like, how in the hell is this happening? This person can't afford it. And then, you know, in one way that helped my business for quite a few years. I did a lot of REO business, obviously, because there was not enough equity. Loans were just, you know, money was thrown away. Now, in the last, ever since COVID hit, my partner and I, you know, Gary Keller, he's always talking about shifts, shifts, and we watch it and they come and you see it coming if you're paying attention. And we saw the shift coming about at least a year ago. We're like, okay, we don't see the same amount of REOs, so we better find a new niche here because we're not going to have the same REOs because there's so much now equity in the homes. There's equity. The only thing I do want to say, Bill, that I see, which I feel really bad for, I'm helping this young couple, first-time home buyers. They were doing FHA. And honestly, I kept saying, do you not have enough money to do conventional? Because right now, at least here in South Florida, if you're an FHA buyer, you might as well just give up. Don't even try. You need to be conventional. And if you don't have some extra money to pay even a little bit over appraised value, forget it. It's not going to happen.
And the VA as well.
Stop there for a second. Let everyone know what you really mean by that. Why do you not have a chance? Is that these sellers don't want to be messing around with a 60, 90 day limping into a qualifying, or what is the deal?
Okay, well, first of all, and like I'm dealing with this couple, 400,000. So they've calculated their down payment. They've calculated having 3.5% to put into a home. Forget it. You know, somebody comes along with conventional, any seller and probably their agent's going to say, look, I much prefer to deal with a conventional loan than I do an FHA loan. It takes longer. FHA is stricter, and I know everybody says this isn't true, but I know it's true. If you have someone putting 3.5% down, but you have somebody putting 10% down, you have a much better chance of getting that house appraised than you do at 3.5. I mean, come on. You know, people say, no, it appraises for what it's. It's not the truth. Sorry.
Tell us how you feel.
Sorry.
That's okay. We're all friends here.
No, so, you know, like, it's true. Like in the South Bay here, y'all know, like, the average price in Manhattan Beach, Redondo, Hermosa is very high. And so when you have very few homes, there's 50, so there's 11,000 residences in Manhattan Beach. There's 58 listings.
Wow.
58.
Okay.
So when you list a home and you got a cash buyer, I got a 30% down buyer, and I got maybe someone that's limping in with 10 or 15%. The seller, in some instances, will take slightly less for cash buyer because they don't want to be dealing with, which is, I'm going to get to the contingency portion of offers. And I don't know if you're seeing a difference in that today, Mark. Are you seeing buyers waive contingencies in order to have an opportunity to get in and buy that property?
Yes, across the board. And I have an interesting perspective because I work, well, you were saying that you were working with a $400,000 buyer as well. So I have that in our area, kind of entry-level single family home has gone up to, like, you can't touch anything for under 750, 800, which is crazy. Those buyers, you know, people are coming in and in all the ranges, and yes, they're making offers without an appraisal contingency. And in fact, the listing agents representing the seller will ask, show me the proof of funds that you not only have for your down payment, but the initial, you know, extra funds, should it appraise $50,000 less. They're just open and honest about it right up front. We're talking about the FHA with VA2. Recently, I've talked to a couple of people wanting to purchase on VA, and we've lost because with VA, by law, you cannot remove your appraisal contingency. The buyer has to have the right to cancel if they choose. They can still pay the difference if they want, but the law does not allow them to remove it. So you're presenting amongst 10 offers, and you have to have that contingency. And even if you promise you're not going to back out because of it, it's what's in writing that counts. So that is affecting that. We don't have a lot of VA, but just for whatever reason, recently I've talked to a couple of people looking to purchase with their programs.
What about you?
But in all levels, we're seeing coming in with no appraisal, no loan. I mean, some are even removing inspection contingencies, which or you're getting countered back like at a 5-day inspection, which to me is a little ridiculous. You're squeezing the buyers, but yeah, depending on the, you know, it's all supply and demand. If there's 15 buyers that want one property, the seller's the king or queen.
Denise?
Bill, we're the same. The appraisals, so many now, even in the MLS, you know, no appraisal contingency. I have had a couple of, thank goodness, they're, you know, multi-million-dollar buyers. So I still want everybody to do a home inspection. I'm sorry, there's things behind closed doors you just don't see. But I have some of my buyers that say, you know what? I won't do inspection and subject with no appraisal. So we're seeing the same thing. It's the same. People want that house.
Yeah, and even on the inspections, you can have the inspection done and then you just don't nickel and dime the seller. If you got
Correct
items that total $11,000, you eat those items and you eat the $11,000 and you get your home. And as long as you don't have a slab crack going down the middle of the house, then, you know, it's probably not material. I will tell you, like out here, cash buyers take precedence, and what these guys are doing is they're cobbling their funds together. They go in, they buy the property cash, then they immediately do a cash out refi to replenish whatever that downstroke was, and they get the transaction because it's just so hyper competitive in the South Bay that if you're coming in with a loan and a story, it's very, very difficult to get consideration, even over list. And are you still seeing over right now, Mark?
Over list offers?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I mean, right now, as soon as we get off this call, I have a property that my buyer saw. It's listed for $1,149,000. I've already told him I wouldn't come in under $1.2 million to start. So that's, yeah, I mean, you know, I guess it all, I'm sorry?
You're representing the buyer.
I represent the buyer on this one, correct. And I don't want him to come in below $1.2 million, 50 over ask. But it all depends. I mean, we've actually turned down some listings over the past few weeks that felt it was just too high. They've listed with others and they are sitting. So I know prices are crazy, but if I tell someone your house is worth 2.4 million and they want to go at 3.2, it's, or 3, it is sitting. So the market's not that crazy. A couple of the ones we've turned down, we still see that are on the market type of a thing. But
So
yeah, I encourage them to write over asking if it's the right property.
is it a better strategy to list it at a number that is under market and create the bidding wars, or do you try to make a new high in the marketplace?
There's a lot of different thoughts on that. I don't like that. I would rather look at it and say, listen, if you want 2.4 for the property, if we really feel we can get that, let's put it at 2.45 or something. Let's not put it at 1.999, because then we're dealing with triple the amount of offers of people that are only qualified up to that 2 million mark, and we're wasting our time. Focus on what we need to focus. We used to have not so much in this market, but a few years ago, a lot of agents were doing value range marketing, and a lot of the times it was because they didn't like to price property, so they would go in and tell a seller, okay, your home is worth 900,000. Let's put it on the market for 849 and say we're entertaining offers between 849 and 925, whatever, and let the market hit the market value. In a hot market, I guess you can do, well, now you can do it without even saying that. It happens organically. But in a slower market, then you're risking that all you're going to get are the lower offers. I've always been of the belief to just, let's put it as close to what you really want. If we get more, God bless us. But if not, at least we're focused on that price point buyer.
Yeah. What's the strategy in Florida, Denise?
Well, you know what? My partner, he loves to go lower and have multiple offers. Yeah. I'm like Mark. I like to be close to the mark. First of all, I don't want to have 20 offers and you have to sift through them and everything. Why make more work for yourself? I just don't think that's the way to go. But I do, in this market, depending upon where the property is, I will tell you, we just have a property now, a duplex, 2 single family homes. And I looked at the market and I said, realistically, I think this house should sell for $750. We could put it $749. Or I said to the owner, we could do $799. And in 2 weeks, if I don't have the phone calls or I don't have the activity, you agree to drop it. He said, fine, I like that strategy. Well, we got an offer of $790, like the first weekend. So we took the offer, they did home inspection, and they came back, they tried to beat us up to $730. My seller almost took it, and then he had a moment, he goes, I'm selling this property as is. They knew it, they knew the age. $790, take it or leave it. And we're going to close in 2 weeks at $790. So I won't go, I usually don't go over 50,000 more than what I think it's worth, because then I want to have some room to play. But if I know, okay, 750 and we just go 799, okay, in 2 weeks, I know if I still have a lot of activity or not.
We didn't get a chance to talk about this much, but I was just sitting here thinking about the 1031 market. And as people are I know, like, if inventory levels are so low, it seems to me that it would be challenging. Like, I'm forced with contemplating the exact same thing on a rental property that I have that I've considered selling this summer. And, like, what do you go into and what are you paying? And is it really what you're looking for? And if there's financing on the loan, it's definitely going to be higher than the financing you got on your existing asset. I'm just wondering, are you seeing a slowdown on the 1031 side just because of identifying assets?
I am. Are you, Mark? I am.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always tough just because the way the rules are set up with the identifying the property within a certain amount of time and you have 90 days to identify. I think it's up to 3 properties, or I think it is 3 to 4 properties, and then 180 days to close from the date you close escrow on your place. So depending on if you get the price you want for your property that you're selling and you want to close it, and then what happens if you get something and you do an inspection and you have to back out and then your other choices aren't there for you. So I'm a big proponent of removing that 90-day identifying property and just saying, whatever you do, you got to close something within 180 days. But especially in this type of a market where it's been a struggle. I mean, I know a lot of people that have just given up on, and recently just had one, and he just ended up paying the taxes. He got a great price on a production building in Hollywood that he didn't want to pass up. We were trying to find stuff for the 1031. It was just not happening. So he's paying the taxes.
You know, speaking of taxes, so in past industry insights, we've talked about kind of the bookend approach. So you saw a lot of people moving out of California, moving out of New York, California going inland. So they were going to Arizona, going to Vegas, going to Idaho, going to Texas, going to Florida, New York, going to the Carolinas, Nashville. They're taking advantage of state taxes, taking advantage of the dollar stretching further. But just as many people are moving to California and New York.
Right.
Inland. So it's almost like a reshuffling of the deck. Like there was a moment where people go, there's no one that's going to live in California. Well, that's baloney. Like we got a whole new slew of people that have read about California and don't mind paying 14% taxes and all the other crazy.
Up on our freeways every day, you'll see how many people live in California with the traffic.
One of the questions I was asked, like what other markets, we're talking about California and Florida, what other hot markets? I will just tell you from our investor perspective, outside of California and Florida, Texas is one of our hottest. Yeah, Texas.
Oh yeah.
Hottest markets. Both Carolinas, South and North Carolina, super, super hot. Nashville, Tennessee, super hot. Still pockets of Arizona booming. That's Gilbert, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, all those surrounding areas, super hot. Parts in Vegas. Like, you know, just start thinking about this, folks. Like if state taxes are that much less, just do the math. For every 100 grand, if you're saving 10%, it's 10 grand per 100. And if the dollar stretches further in some of these areas, and now people can work from home, it's changed the landscape about the way people think about real estate. It absolutely has. And then for those that are moving out of California, you got all the people that were inland that have never been able to move to California that are coming and taking their bite at the apple. So I do think it's a shuffling of the deck. I don't think it's a migration necessarily. Because we have just as many people coming in as going out, but there is opportunity. And so I just got a little message here, like what states, those are the states that we're seeing the biggest movement in. And I'm talking about where investors are doubling and tripling down. Of course, California, of course, Florida, and then those other 7 or 8 states that I just mentioned. States that we're not seeing a lot of activity in, maybe like Detroit, Cincinnati, Ohio, South Dakota. I mean, probably none of those are super surprising to anybody, but, you know, certainly worth mentioning. What about new building permits? I'll start with you, Denise. Have you guys been tracking what's going on in Florida in terms of new developments?
Well, you know, Bill, I was trying to get some numbers for you today, and I did find, because that's not something I really keep track of. I might have not typed it, but I think that, oh yes, Miami-Dade County in 2021. I only know 2021. I don't have this year. There were 12,393 permits for new permits. But I don't know if that's for someone to put on a new roof, to put in a septic tank. I don't know. Broward was 4,069. But I don't really keep track of that, to be honest with you. And it's rare that I do new construction. I know there's a lot of new construction going up, and you know it because every time you drive, the buildings are going, the houses. I have a project right down the street from me that's been building for 2 years, but I'm not really sure on that one.
What about you, Mark? What are you seeing in your area?
Well, we don't have like sprawling amounts of land where people are doing development. So it's a lot of just individual builders buying the old house, tearing it down and putting up the Cape Cods all over the place, which they're doing. So I work with several of those, and it's fierce. I mean, it's the same thing. I don't know the numbers of permits, but I'll tell you, I mean, it's something that makes sense to a builder. We just had a property that was $1,799,000 that we were getting offers from owner users like $1,850,000-ish, high $1,800,000. 2 builders came in and started battling, and one guy ended up buying it for 2.2. I don't know how he's going to make money based on what he thinks he's going to build, but he wasn't my client. I'm not going to say that to him. You know, let him do what he wants to do. But I was talking to him, and you know, we brought it up a little bit about the numbers, and you know, he said, Mark, quite frankly, I have crews of people that if I don't keep them working, then they're jumping ship and they're going to the next guy. And then when I do get a good opportunity, I don't have my framers, and I don't have this and that, and it'll cost me more money later. So in our area, a lot of these guys are working for peanuts. It's you know, we're starting to see that a little bit, and it's just as fierce as the typical market, because you've got, you know, everyone knows all the builders in the valley, and they're all going from lot to lot, and starting to bid that up a little bit more. We'll see, but construction prices are more expensive. I've done a couple of projects in the east parts of the valley, which is called NoHo, North Hollywood, where they have a lot of live work lofts and retail with apartments over it. So we had these two projects. One was like 18 units, and they look like townhomes, but they're individual houses. They are six inches apart, but they look connected. Anyway, so that builder I know is basically had nothing else in their pipeline. They shut down. They're only servicing their current projects. And I just ran to an agent that I was dealing with in an area called Los Feliz, which they have a lot of those because she was big in doing those. And she said too, there's like nothing going on as far as that. But that's involved with buying, splitting lots, doing it, that it's very time consuming. A lot of these builders want one lot, tear down. They've got their pre-approved plans they take from place to place, and they're building the exact same house all over the place. But a huge, huge demand for that. And what's happening here is like, if they build something like that, that would sell for 3 million, let's say, or 3.5. I'm from where I live, 15-minute drive to Beverly Hills, but it's a huge difference in price point. So, or you have young couples that live down in Santa Monica, close to the ocean, where things are so expensive. The same house that they can get here for 3 million, they're paying 5.5 in their neighborhood. So we're seeing where they're dumping their townhomes and getting $1.5 million for a townhouse, coming up into our areas and putting money, because they want that new house, and they're willing to come into, the valley area, they call it.
Yeah,
But big demand.
A lot. And so we see the big permits in the Arizonas, the Vegases, certainly in Texas. If anybody here has ever spent any time in Texas, just driving down through the Frisco area, it's all sticks and bricks. Like
it's all developments. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable the amount of building that's going on, and they just can't keep the inventory. And so good little strategy is on like a 9 or 10 phase development. If you can get in early, and that's a 12 to 18 month build, and then watch those phases go up, get some built-in appreciation. The housing there is still so affordable compared to somebody coming from either East or West Coast coming inland, that it does make a lot of sense. Eddie Wilson, same guy from Think Realty, said that he thought, even though we were 5 to 6 million underwater, he didn't think that the permits were keeping up with the demand, meaning that as crazy as the numbers are, he thought they might actually be worse. Like it just, and he's in, I think, Coral Gables, Denise, and he's building some stuff out there, but he's like, we just can't keep the product on the market for a moment. Like it's just, we're getting pre-sales, and then they're customizing how they want that to look.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
so
here too, while they're building, they'll put up a sign, with the rendering coming soon type of thing. And many of the builders, if they get their number, they're just ready to do it. Thomas James Homes is, they work in a few different states, and on their website, projects they're building too, they're telling buyers you can buy off market. They're giving them that opportunity because they'd rather just get the money now type of thing.
Denise, same thing out there?
Yeah, for sure. I was just thinking about this project that's down the street from me. I think about a year and a half ago, we had a client that wanted to sell his house. He wanted to buy new construction. And I think the going rate was like 450, and now it's over 600,000, and it's just like a year later. I mean, and people keep saying, I think part of what we're so used to saying in our industry, if we've been doing this long enough, we tell our clients, when people say, oh, the prices are high, I can't afford it, or I want to wait. And I think we're so used to saying to people, okay, well, it's going to balance out. Don't worry. We're going to see the market change, and we're going to see prices come down. And so I do think there are a lot of people right there waiting. In my opinion, we're now at maybe where we should have been. Maybe our prices are where we should have been. It's just that it happened so quickly. That's one thing. I think it just happened so quickly, and people just put prices on there. The other thing too, though, I am seeing, and I don't know if Mark sees this and everybody on this call, that sometimes it takes sellers a long time to get with the program where they finally realize, oh my gosh, I can put my house on the market and I can probably make a lot of money. And by the time they realize that, a lot of the buyers are going, because I see a slowdown now. I see a little bit of a slowdown. And finally, it's like the buyers are saying, wait a second. I'm not going to spend this much money over asking price. I really think we're now at this stage in the month of May. I'm starting to see sort of people are starting to think and not react.
Yeah, I've noticed that too in the last few weeks, just a slight, when you're in it every day, you get the nuances, and it's a slight change, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I have a personal opinion about the slight change, and this is again off the beaten path, but my personal opinion about the slight change in real estate has nothing to do with real estate, but has everything to do with the stock market. I think, just my truth. Some of the folks I know in the space that have portfolios have watched their portfolios drop 25 to 40%. And even though they weren't interdependent on those portfolios to use as a down payment for their next real estate acquisition, they're kind of looking over their left shoulder going, what the heck happened to my Tesla stock? Or what,
Right.
Amazon got cut in half, or what's, and so there is a cause for pause. And so they take a step back and go, let me see this thing get back up to some comfort level, and then I can, react over here. I'm not talking about owner occupied stuff necessarily, probably more investment property, second homes, vacation. But like the folks that I know and have talked to on a regular basis have watched, they just got punched in the face. The market has gotten hammered over the last few weeks. I think we've had 3 or 4 straight weeks down. And I do think that comfort level has been shaken up a little bit, and that might have something to do with it. I don't know exactly, but it might have something to do on the second homes. And then you got this whole build to rent movement going on right now, where people are coming in and building communities that they have no intention to sell. It's just to rent, which I'm going to save that for another conversation. But here's my favorite question before we get to Q&A, which is really predictions or speculation. And I'm going to start with you, Mark. Like, let's go out through 2022. We're almost done with May. Go through 2022 into 23, what you see for the real estate market, rates, buyers, sellers.
Yeah, well, I mean, with rates, you might have a little better insight. I certainly hope it's not going to keep going up. And what we were talking about early, where you're not really seeing the interest rates affecting buyers. And so my perspective of working with the first time buyer as opposed to just selling the $6 million house, there's a half that, yes, I'm seeing some people talk about the stock market in the higher price buyers. And then my lower end buyers that are in that 750, 800 are like, oh my God, now my payment's this much. So it's kind of getting, half and half. We'll see. I think like you said, with the inventory so low, I just don't see how things are gonna, can go off a cliff. Number one, if there's anything in our area, I'm preaching that it's going to be definitely a soft landing. I mean, people are buying houses even at $1.5 million, they're putting 300-400 down. If we had a little bit of a dip of 10, no one's going to run and throw the keys to the bank like they did in 07 when we went off a cliff. So I think if anything, it'll be a soft landing. I would love to be one of those guys, like it's going to keep going up and never stop. Our income levels in the Valley don't rise with home prices. So at some point it's, there's going to be some type of a pushback. We'll see with like what you said, how, like I said, initially the rates have gone up so high, maybe it's just a little shock and awe and they got to pause and see what happens. Same thing with the stock market. So I'm just seeing an interesting take in the last few weeks, and I'll see where that rolls out. If I had to bet money, I would say in our area, we'll probably start to see a leveling of pricing, but until we have inventory going, there's still going to be a high demand. And I think the rest of the year that's happening. We got a lot of sellers now. Now it's in the news all the time about the higher interest rates. It's in the news about the economy, gas prices. So we're getting a lot of people calling us now. It's like, oh my God, I think I don't want to miss the market. Let's get on. So I'm waiting to see if over the next month or two, we might see an increase of inventory. Plus, in our area, in the city of Los Angeles, we have this ridiculous eviction moratorium for COVID, which is still in effect and has no expiration date. So I probably have 6 people right now that want to sell their houses and their tenants just won't leave. There's no fault evictions within the city of Los Angeles. If they break the law, don't pay their rent or whatever, you can evict. But if their lease is up, tough, and they don't want to go, they don't have to go. You can raise their rents if it's not under rent control. So that's really, I wonder if that didn't exist, how many more homes we'd have, because there's some people like, oh my God, my house is worth so much, I want to sell it. But their tenants, and they're like, can we sell it with the tenant in? I'm like, well, that's if somebody wants to buy a house and keep your tenant through the end of this pandemic. LA County just extended theirs.
Keep your non-paying tenant in the house.
Yeah. Well, now that the county of LA it's ridiculous. If you stop paying rent because of COVID, like who's really not working anymore because of COVID? And I'm not discounting it. There may be people, but I'm not seeing that anymore, really. The county of LA has extended theirs through non-payment of rent because of COVID all the way into April of 23. You cannot evict. The city of LA can be stronger. They can't be weaker than the county. So we just, if they don't pay because of COVID here, you're sitting. I have many clients that are like negotiating, getting half the rent. So I don't know what type of inventory that would have once that's lifted.
What about you, Denise? Crystal ball.
Well, crystal ball. First of all, I'm Miss Pollyanna. I looked at everything always positive. It's always half full. And I think we're going to just keep rolling along. I don't think, just like Mark said, we would all love the prices to keep going up because the deals are quick and we're making the money and it's wonderful. I don't think that's going to happen. I do think we're going to find a little bit more of an even pace. But the reality is, if I only have 1.1 months of inventory or 1.7, we still need a lot of inventory. And then for those of us that, I mean, this is our livelihood. I've been doing it 23 years, my partner too. And you're always out there hustling, saying, okay, I've got to really be in touch with my database. I really have to work with as many investors as I can if I can find them something. You know, that's a hard thing. I get people call me all the time. Okay, I'm looking for blah, 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 blah. I go, yeah, you and half the country is looking for the same thing. And I'd love to help you, but I don't know you. At least I'm going to work with investors I have a track record with. So it's really, that's another hard thing, you know, finding the inventory. You know, last year I went to an REO convention in Denver, and they had some great speakers there, and they had some great hedge fund companies there speaking, and everyone was saying, we're not going to see interest rates go over 5%. If it gets to 5%, you know, it's going to be a different market. We're not going to see it. At the end of the day, no one, as you know, no one really knows what's going to happen, but I am hoping, because there's so much talk about it, and there you can see the economy and the public pushing back. I'm hoping we don't see anything past 6. I hope it stays at 6, and 6 is still even a low percentage, but we all love the 3%, obviously, or lower. But think about it. When my parents bought a home, it was like 18, 19%. So come on, 6% is still great, but I pray it doesn't go over that, because then it'll just be harder for the first-time home buyers.
Yeah, I do think that perspective is worth noting, Denise. And we went through 3 unbelievable years in lending where rates were 0 or whatever, 2% or 3. And it was, you know, the roaring 20s, like a different roaring 20s. It was unbelievable. So look, here's my 2 cents. You got rates that are up. You want my opinion about interest rates? I think they probably go up a little bit more, not a lot more. If we're at 5.25-ish, I think they're probably mid 5s to high 5s, maybe hit the 6. I don't think it goes much higher than that. I think that will be damage done, and you know, probably an inverse effect happens. And I do think you're going to see more products on the marketplace, if you haven't already. They're coming, because this machine, this lending machine in the United States, does $1.5 to $3 trillion, depending on the marketplace, of loans each year. They need to feed the beast. They're going to feed the beast with products. So 30-year fix, no one's going to get that. No one's getting 15-year fix. It'll be 10-1, 7-1, 5-1, graduated payment mortgage, interest only, 2-1 buy downs, qualified your start rates. All those products are coming back. They will, 100% for sure. They got to figure out a way to augment the machine. I believe that happens. And here it is. Like I'm with you, Denise. I see for 2022, real estate values are going to continue to go up. No matter what anyone shows me, every stat and every feeling, all the feelings and all the emotions about the credit crisis and the bubble, inventory. It's a supply and demand issue. Right. We just don't have the supply, no matter what. Until somebody shows me one person showing up at a listing, or no more concessions, or property staying, or a reduction in price, I'm not a believer. I say real estate across the landscape, I'm talking about West Coast to East Coast, in most states, I see home price appreciation. And I think Mark or Denise, I can't remember which one of you said this, but I think it's a really important point. There's so much home
Must
price.
have been me. No.
Okay, Mark.
There's so much home price appreciation that has taken place over the last couple of years that people have exits. People can sell their property. Maybe they don't get top dollar. Maybe they don't break a record, Mark, but they're going to sell it. They're going to take chips off the table and they're going to get to live to play another day. That's an entirely different deal than 08, 09, 10.
Totally. Yeah.
Completely.
So
Different.
I'm super bullish. I'm going to Miami in a couple of days to go speak at IMN, as you know, Denise, and I sit on a panel. I'm looking at this panel and I'm going draconian, negative, doesn't believe in the market. And it's me. This is like bright days. And tomorrow's going to be sunshine. So, hey, how about some Q&A before we wrap up, Gina? I've seen a lot of stuff coming through here. Somebody just said, hey, Bill, you need help with squatters? I can get them out. I'm sure. That's the toughest guy.
Is that Vito?
Make an offer they can't refuse.
Right.
All right. Well, we definitely do have several questions. I'm going to start with your chart, Bill, that you flashed on the screen. Many questions about this chart. So number one, what's the source of your chart? And can you clarify when you were talking about having 300,000 nationwide, what type of property was that referencing?
SFRs. And this was the Fred report, Housing Inventory Active Listing Count in the United States. And, again, just using numbers, average 1.3 to 1.4 listings across the US and was sitting at 356,000. And I will share that, Gina, so you could share that with anybody else. I got like tons of stuff all over the place. You know, it's weird. Like this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I thought I'd share. Do you know that I was looking at population control in Manhattan Beach? This is the weirdest thing. Like nobody on this call is going to believe it, but the report actually says it, that we've had the exact same population in Manhattan Beach since 1962. We've had the 33,478. So within 1,000, meaning, you talk about landmark and they're just not being, well, this is beach area. So there's just not a lot
of course.
You recycle families, you recycle homes.
It's heaven on earth at the beach. You stay forever and the kids take over.
58 listings though. So that, that's not very good.
Yeah. Tough to be a broker in Manhattan Beach.
But they sell one home and they sell for $6 million and then they get to go have lunch for a bit.
Right, there you go.
Go ahead, Gina. What else?
A lot of talk about migration, the hot markets. So one of the questions is, do you envision people from the West, Midwest, and North continuing to migrate to the Sunbelt states, such as Florida, North Carolina, as interest rates increase?
So we could all take a stab at this. My quick stab at it is absolutely. Just start with state taxes. So you get an immediate raise in your income, And then you just think about how dollars spread through normal goods and services. And if it's lower, then certainly. And I think the whole workforce, this is the big deal that no one really talks about, but the change in workforce at CIVIC, we have a thing called CIVIC Anywhere. And so we have about 450 employees. A third of our employees work full-time remote, a third hybrid, they come and go, and a third work at the office. That's not because of, it was because of COVID, but now it's long after COVID. Like it has worked for us. And I think a lot of other companies are the same way. And if that's true, and you can work from home, you see, Gina, we have like lots of key executives that are picking up from California right here in corporate office. Where have they moved? They moved to Austin. They moved to Arizona. They've moved to
Carolina.
That South Whit McCarthy went to South Carolina. Been here for 7 years. We just had Vinny say goodbye. He's moving to Nashville with his family. Like, I get it. The dollar stretches further. They don't take as much for state taxes. It's a good quality life. So I don't see that changing in the near future. I just don't.
Bill, I think that's something too. I wanted to say it earlier. I think COVID really hit home for everybody. If everybody just rethought about their life, you thought about what makes you happy. a lot of people saw people pass away. And it's like, okay, I have an opportunity. I can work from home and I can live in any state. I've always wanted to live in California. I've always wanted to live in Nashville. I've always wanted to live here. Now's the time for me to do it, and they can do it. And I think people are also looking at their lifestyle because they can do the job from anywhere. So why not be where they really want to be? I do have to say, I was in Nashville last week for a couple of day convention with KW. I had been there maybe 5-6 years ago. I cannot believe what's happening in Nashville. It is crazy. Every corner is major construction, like we used to see in Miami. You used to see every block, new buildings. I mean, we still see it, not the same. Nashville is booming. I'd love to know what the average price is, but every driver I had, I'm like, where are you from? They were from so many other places. Oh no, I want to be here. Here's where it's happening. I would tell people, check it out.
Yes, real.
It was great. So,
Gina?
Yeah, and here we have the same thing. I mean, if you could, I'm seeing a lot of, like, I have a client who's getting relocated from New York. He's going to be working for Sony down in Culver City. And he was begging, he loves New York, and he was begging them to continue, doing it virtual. They want him there 3 days a week. So he can. And I've talked to a few other people that would involve corporations too. They're going back to that. We want you in the office 3 days a week type of thing. So we'll see how that, I was always wondering with all this in home, I just think there's certain corporations you have to be together, for that productivity. I don't know how that'll affect things. Real estate's different. Obviously, we work out of our cars. We're in the field all the time. But yeah, I've had clients, and in our area too. Unfortunately, LA City schools aren't the best, crowded, that type of thing. And so we have really wonderful private schools here in the Valley that people come for. But I've had clients that can make what I call LA money, and they have sent me their pictures of their beautiful home in North Carolina. They have all 3 daughters that they were paying 50, 60,000 a year to go to private school. They're now saving, in public schools and on acres of land. So yeah, it's definitely, if you love where you're going to live, it's definitely a different lifestyle.
That's a good point. I saw,
but I've heard places like Austin though is like getting overridden with LA folk, and the prices are going nuts, and they're going to the outskirts now, 100 miles away from Austin to get less priced homes.
I was told by a couple of realtors, if you go in there, do not drive in with California plates.
Right. Exactly.
They're not selling to you.
Right.
Somebody had mentioned something there, Gina, about the North Carolina Cup that I was drinking out of. My kid played for UNC baseball, so they gave a call out to Dan Molina out of our Charlotte office. So thank you for that, whoever wrote that. Appreciate it. What else, Gina? What else you got?
Well, a lot of folks are comparing our current situation to what happened in 2008. And one of the questions, this kind of in that vein, this question is for you, Bill. With different exotic type loan programs a la 2006 make a comeback, do you think there would be a repeat of 2008 in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, so I don't think those products are ever coming back. So the whole CFPB movement and Dodd-Frank and all that really came off the heels of how we were lending back then. And just so everyone's clear, I said it once, I'm going to say it a little bit slower and one more time. We were lending 100%, the entire lending industry. Wall Street was buying tens of millions of dollars each week of this paper. 100% loan to value. That's 0 down. 580 credit score. You have to work hard, just as hard to get a 580 score as a 780 score. Like you have to intentionally say, I'm not paying stuff. 580 stated, no income, no asset, 100% loan to value, up to $2 million. Like that lending was so irresponsible. So the second the market hiccuped, everyone just said, I'm not gonna, why would I make payments on a mortgage that on a house that's
underwater?
Right. So they didn't. And then they hired attorneys at $1,000 a month to keep them in their home 2 to 3 years. And so you had a big swell of foreclosures that had a tough time making it through the system. The products I'm talking about still have down payment, still have equity, still have credit requirements. Now, they might qualify at the start rate. They might be interest only. They might have, where you get 3% year 1, 4% year 2, 5% year 3, so you can ease into the payments. Entirely different product than the credit crisis. The credit crisis was inflicted by the lending industry. It was. Like anyone that says otherwise wasn't in it. And I sat in the middle of it at my desk and watched loans that were getting done going, oh my God. Like, so this is the greatest credit quality paper we have ever lent in for me for 4 decades. It is harder to get a loan today than it has ever been in the history of lending, other than coming out of the credit crisis. You have to be buttoned up with credit. You have to have a job, and you have to be able to verify that for a couple of years. You have to have documented reserves. Like, you have to be buttoned up. And so we're not heading anywhere close to that. And it's a great question, but I absolutely promise you 100% certainty, the credit crisis is so far removed from where we are today in terms of housing being expensive. Totally different animal. No comparison at all.
Agreed.
Well,
Yep.
Bill, don't you think it was because of all the mistakes that were made? They said, wait a second, let's look at everything. I think that's why we are so good right now. Because of that, there were just so many mistakes made, and you saw it for several years. So, we learned from our mistakes.
What do they say? If you don't learn from your mistakes, you're damned to repeat them. I'm telling you,
Yep.
we're not going to repeat that one. I don't see it.
That was a bad one.
Hallelujah.
Good question. What else you got, Gina?
Do you want to take one more, or do you want to wrap it?
Let's take one more, then we'll wrap up.
Okay, so this is pretty general. So we can start with you, Mark, but what are the primary reasons, if you could narrow it down, for the low house? Sorry, what are the primary reasons for the low house for sale inventory compared to the past?
I mean, what I hear a lot of now is, great, I can get 2 million, but where am I going? They can't go to North Carolina.
Exactly.
They're working here. They can't move. So they have their property taxes are based on 1 million, and, they can get them, 2 now, but if they buy, they're not over 55. They can't transfer their property taxes. So they're staying. And that's why in our area, we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of remodeling, getting, maybe doing equity lines and adding a room or adding an office for the in-home office, or sprucing it all up. I think that's a big factor.
Denise?
It's the same. Gina, I have to go with Mark. It is what it is.
Smart lady.
Yeah, smart lady. Okay, Mark, coffee on you when we get together.
All right.
Yeah, Gina, I would just say, I think COVID caused some families to take care of their parents in a way that they hadn't before. I think kids are getting educated at home. There's more homeschooling going on, and definitely people working from home. So there's home sweet home has a different meaning than it used to have. And I think that's also adding to the problems that Mark and Denise mentioned as to why people aren't just listing and taking chips off the table. Yeah, where are they going to go? And then they're going to be buying at what they would perceive to be the top of the market. I think if anything, you might see some of these people take chips off the table, pay their long-term capital gains tax, and then just go rent somewhere that's cool and watch the market for a bit. I don't know if that's a good strategy or not, but it is a strategy, taking chips off the table. No one ever went broke, right? Taking a profit. So that was a good question.
And also during COVID too, with the schools, LA City didn't do, it took everybody had to get ramped up for it. So I have seen a lot of parents pull out of LA City and go into a private school because they were run better during COVID with all the in-home schooling. So now they've got a $40,000 a year payment for that too. And I have families that are living in little 3+2s in Reseda that are spending $100,000 a year going to private school, and they want to stay in their house too. Now that they're there because of COVID, they're remaining because they like the education, they like what they're getting, so they're putting their money into that too. Another factor.
What about ADUs? This has come up in regards to Bill's, comment of home sweet home taking on a different meaning. Are you, Denise and Mark, seeing an increase in ADUs happening in your areas?
We are, because the city is also making it easier for people to do so, because they want to have more lower income housing, rentable properties. So we're seeing that a lot, yes. And not as much where they're doing it to resell, but they're doing it for extra income on their property type of thing.
Yeah.
Because in LA as well with Airbnb, in LA, you can't Airbnb unless it's your primary residence. So they consider primary residence if you live here 6 months out of the year. So all these guys that bought 10, 20 houses to Airbnb, they all, when that changed, it got them in trouble. So you can Airbnb your ADU if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I know it's the end of the time. It just brings the story. I just sold a house for like $1.5 million in Broward, in Boca. Great little neighborhood, nice little pocket. People bought it and they knew they were going to do Airbnb. No one ever done Airbnb in this community. Long story short, the neighbors were so upset with having the Airbnb. Somebody put a water hose in the drain pipe for the air conditioner, flooded the house, did about $400,000 worth of damage. I called the agent because I felt so bad. I'm like, I can't believe this. He goes, well, you know what? It's all working out. We did our insurance claim. The house will be nicer than ever. And I am now suing the city of Boca Raton because we can do Airbnb and we're going to win. And it was just like, oh my gosh. I'm like, when I hear those stories, I just don't want to do Airbnb and have problems like that. I felt so bad for them, but that was another story.
That is going to be a subject we're going to be talking about in the future, the whole short-term rental market. It is absolutely booming. So I think that's coming up in June or July. I know we're way over, Gina. I want to thank everyone who attended. Mark and Denise, you were awesome.